morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the March 7th, 2024 North Carolina State Board of Education meeting. I'm Eric Davis, Chair of the Board, and I call this meeting to order. Welcome to all board members and advisors, staff, on-site visitors, online listeners, and social media followers. And remember, you can follow the State Board of Education on social media at edstateboard_NC. And remind the audience and those listening that this body meets monthly with the official meeting scheduled for the first Thursday of the month. And remind our on-site visitors and online listeners that you can follow the meeting online and see our materials by going to SBE meetings at www.epi.nc.gov. Board members, you're reminded that it's our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. Is our audio working? I'm delighted once again to welcome so many of our local superintendents who are joining us today. If you're here today, I ask you to please stand so we can welcome you. Dr. Cindy Bennett from Vance County, Dr. Steve Hall from Elkin City, Dr. Ethan Linker from Pitt County, Mark Sale from Swain County, and Dr. Otis Smallwood from Bertie County, along with our Superintendent of the Year, Superintendent Don Phipps of Caldwell County. Please join me in thanking these leaders. This time I call on my colleague, Dr. Olivia Oxendine, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Oxendine.
Please stand and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, this board has an enduring commitment to preserving our state's great public school system and the importance of recruiting, developing, and retaining high-quality, dedicated teachers. We're fortunate to have a governor who is a champion of our public schools. Please join me in welcoming the 75th governor of the state of North Carolina, the Honorable Roy Cooper. Yes, sir.
That's for me? That's for me?
Yeah, it is.
Good morning, everybody.
Good
morning.
Floor is yours, sir.
Okay, great. Thanks. Well, good morning to everyone. And I know that service on this board is a labor of love. And I know how much time you spend on these weighty issues that face our state and particularly involving our public schools, so I thank you for that. Chairman Davis, thank you for your many years of service. Vice Chair Duncan, thank you. Superintendent Truitt, thank you. Lieutenant Governor Robinson, thank you. The State Board, as you know, is constitutionally charged with overseeing our public education system. And I thank you for this opportunity to give you my point of view on public schools and what we need to do to make them even better. I know firsthand about public schools. I am a public school graduate. My wife and I spent a couple of decades in the PTA. I spent even longer tutoring students over the years. My mom was the greatest public school teacher in the history of North Carolina, which I'm very proud of. And I know how hard my mom worked preparing lesson plans. I'd say, Mom, you've been doing this for 15 years. Why do you need to keep doing it? She said, every child is different. Every class is different. Every year is different. And I know that our educators are working hard all over our state. And that's what our public schools are about. Safe places where children can learn from teachers who really care about them. It's where children can make different friends from different places, different races, different faiths. And it gives them the opportunity to live successful lives. Our public schools are doing amazing work. We have a record graduation rate of 87% in 2023. We've understood that you don't have to have 4 years of college, and that our high schools should be places where people can choose to get workforce credentials and immediately jump into the workforce and make a great living. And you guys helped us have 325,000 workforce credentials last year. We have in North Carolina the highest number of nationally board certified teachers in the country. More than 24,000, nearly a quarter of our teachers have that certification. We're improving young student reading skills thanks to the bipartisan work on the science of reading by this board, by Superintendent Truitt, by the legislature. We're seeing great progress in improving early literacy. In North Carolina, the number of first through third graders meeting standards has risen to 52 to 54%, which is slightly better than the national average, and that's up from 38 to 45% just 2 years ago. We know that we have one of the best nationally renowned pre-K programs in the nation, and of course, we need to expand it significantly. There are hundreds of other examples that I can give you that I've personally seen and that I know about and that people in this room deserve a lot of credit for. But I think bottom line is North Carolina public schools rock. Yes. They do. And that success blooms not from seeds planted last year or even the years before. It's a dedication to public schools that's been part of our state for 150 years. When North Carolina was one of the poorest states in the country, we found a way to make sure that we invested in our public schools. We knew then what we know is true today. Strong schools equal a strong state. But unfortunately, too often, our schools are told by the legislature to do more with less. Unfortunately, our beginning teacher pay has dropped to 46 in the country, 11th out of 12th in the Southeast. We're at $5,000 less per student investment than the national average. That is not the North Carolina that I know. And that deserves a wake-up call. As governor, I've answered that call by sending over budgets with meaningful raises that follow court orders. Remember, we've got that stubborn constitutional amendment that says every single child in this state is entitled to the opportunity for a sound basic education. But every year, the legislature has been coming up short. You know this firsthand. We risk losing great teachers when they're underpaid and underappreciated. You've encouraged parental involvement in our public schools for years, and parents have responded. They are there. I know. I see them. They know our schools are underfunded. They're spending countless hours in the classrooms talking with teachers. They're involved with helping with school supplies, with tutoring, with helping in class, with raising money. But the legislature continues to shortchange our schools, even though we've had the funds to make those investments. But instead, the plan is now to divert $4 billion over the next decade for vouchers. Based on an analysis by the Office of State Management and Budget, our public schools could lose $200 million in state funding in just the first year of voucher expansion. That's wrong, particularly when most private schools are not better than our public schools. Recent studies in Louisiana show that those who used vouchers to switch to private schools went from the midpoint of performance to almost the bottom quarter in a single year. They also lost ground in reading and science and social studies. In Indiana and Ohio, students who use vouchers fared worse. And vouchers are causing budget problems and pushback, even in states like Arizona and Texas. But you know this well, in North Carolina, we won't even know how students in private schools are doing who are using public money, because they don't have to tell taxpayers what they're doing with the money. In fact, private schools don't have to hire licensed teachers. They don't have to provide meals. They don't have to provide transportation or services for the disabled. They don't have to tell taxpayers what they teach, how their students perform, which students they will reject, or whether students even show up at all. That is a reckless waste of taxpayer money. The State Board of Education, the Superintendent of Public Instruction, and the legislature and I are constitutionally charged with ensuring that our students have the opportunity for a sound basic education. And when we send taxpayer dollars to private schools to educate our students without any follow-up or accountability, we're shirking that responsibility. Now, let me be really clear. I'm not against private schools, but I am against taxpayer money going to private schools at the expense of public schools. And I am advocating, and a lot of people, more and more people are advocating, that we put a moratorium on private school vouchers until we fully fund our public schools. Now, we know, we have recent evidence that real investment in our public schools work. For the past 2 years, our students have seen strong learning recovery and increased test scores. Why? Because the federal government invested in North Carolina more than $5 billion to help with that learning recovery. And I appreciate the State Board and Superintendent Truitt for investing these funds strategically and using them in the right way. We need to do that with state funding. And you know, when you sit back and think about it, our public schools are central to who we are as North Carolinians. Think about the concerts and the pancake suppers and the football games and the quiz bowls and the art and the music and the theater and the athletics. Public schools are often the glue that hold our communities together. More than 8 in 10 school-aged children in North Carolina choose our public schools, and based on many surveys, parents are satisfied with that education their children are getting. That's why that I've declared 2024 as the year of public schools in North Carolina. And I'm going to continue to be in schools, meeting with educators, meeting with students, meeting with community leaders, meeting with businesses and parents. Today I'm going to Hereford County as soon as I leave here to meet with students and teachers there. And I'm going to be talking about the great things that are happening in our schools, the great work that they're doing, trying to recruit children to make education a career for themselves. And as members of this state board, I would ask you to join me in this effort. I know that you have regular communications with members of your communities, with school boards, school and district administrators, teachers, parents, business leaders, and community leaders, probably more than you even want. But when you're talking with them, I would propose that you ask them to tell their legislators four things. One, great things are happening in our public schools. Two, put a moratorium on private school vouchers until we fully fund our public schools. Three, pay teachers like the professionals they are. And four, expand access to early childhood education, more pre-K, more quality childcare. I think your voice can make a difference. Our schools must produce the people who are going to build our buildings and highways, grow our food, keep our lights on, keep our water clean. Somebody from a North Carolina public school might be able to find the cure for cancer. And I know that we're going to produce many young people who become teachers, who will change the lives of so many students. I think we all agree, we live in the best state in the country. This is an amazing state. And for the last 2 years, we've recruited record numbers of jobs to North Carolina. We've become a clean energy epicenter. Businesses like to come to North Carolina, and in fact, we've been ranked as the first in the nation for business for the last 2 years in a row. But we won't continue to be first in business if we become last in education. Most every CEO will tell you the value of public schools when it comes to their decision-making about where they're going to come, where they're going to expand, where their employees, children are going to go to school, and where their workforce is coming from. And I know that the key to great public schools is a great teacher in every classroom and a great principal in every school. I've had conversations with legislators in both parties, and they agree that that is where we need to be, a great teacher in every classroom, a great principal in every school, and let them do their work. Let them do their thing. Our teachers are in school right now. They're trying to teach their kids reading and science and math, and they're trying to deal with a lot of children who come from tough home situations, and they're working hard to do that. We need to support them. The future of our state goes to class every day in a public school, and we have to invest in that future. Mr. Chairman, thank you for letting me give my thoughts, and I'm glad to take any feedback. I'm glad to answer any questions that anybody might have. I want to thank Jeff Coltrane, one of the smartest people I know, and an educator himself, and very skilled with public education policy. I know that he's talked with many of you about a lot of issues, and he comes at this from just the facts perspective. And Dyson Passon is my teacher advisor, and our Governor's Teacher Advisory Board has been very helpful in this entire process. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Governor. So you touched on this briefly at the end of your remarks, but would you say more about the importance of our public schools to the economic vitality of our state?
There's no question that a strong education system provides a well-trained, diverse, dedicated workforce. Our CEOs talk with us about public schools when we are recruiting them. You know, we have the best array of public and private universities in the country. We have the best community college system in the country. You know, where we are slipping is in our public schools because of lack of investment, the will to invest. And in fact, there's been an intentional dismantling that we have to stop. And I think that we can get our business community energized. I'm talking to a lot of them, and particularly in these rural counties. You know, our public schools are the largest employer in these rural counties. They support the economy, but these public schools mean so much to these areas, and small businesses understand their importance.
Questions from my colleagues? Kamnitz?
Thank you for joining us
Sure.
today, Governor. It's an honor to have you here. And I know all of us appreciate so much the emphasis that you're placing on this work this year. I think we forget sometimes when we talk about choice and homeschooling and charter and private schools are what we talk about the most, but the majority of families in this state choose traditional public schools. And so I also appreciate you lifting up their role in advocating and supporting both what happens in their schools, but also on the larger aspect of education in the state. This may be putting you on the spot a little bit, but you've been doing a lot of traveling, and I wonder if you have an episode or something that touched you that you might want to share with us.
I think overall, it's amazing the choices within the public schools that parents have. With magnet schools, with public charter schools, with A+ schools, it is amazing. I think sitting on the floor, and I've sat on a lot of floors lately, but sitting on the floor with children and watching the science of reading at work and remembering how, that's how I learned to read, and moving away from the whole language and back to using phonetics and helping children sound things out. I see children light up. I mean, they get this. I think that's really part of why we're seeing such improvement. So that sticks out to me. I think that teachers coming up to me and saying, we just appreciate being recognized and people thanking us. There's so much criticism of the public schools without a whole lot of knowledge of what's happening in them right now. And so I think lifting them up and thanking them, recognizing that we need to get better, for sure. But that has been, I think, meaningful, is just hearing people, how much they appreciate the recognition, and teachers who've not been getting any real pay raises, who keep doing it because it's the right thing. But they are professionals. We can afford to pay them more. We're not 46th in the country. We shouldn't be 46th in the country. That's absurd. Sorry, a little passionate.
Mr. Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for coming this morning, Governor. I was listening to your words, and I was thinking, I'm from a rural area. I'm from Hereford County. That's where you're
That's where I'm going. Yep.
That's where you're going.
Yeah.
Great place to go.
Yes, sir.
Wish I could accompany you, but I'm here. But I'm talking about infrastructure now, and how that impacts the education in rural areas, how it impacts companies deciding to go to a particular area. Single lane roads, they're not gonna put those big heavy diesel trucks to haul produce in and out. Can you talk a little about that and your work in that area and how you see that? Is that a false assumption that I have?
Well, first, I thought you were going to talk about public school infrastructure, which is lacking significantly. I proposed a bond a couple of years in a row. The legislature has not taken up on it, and there has not been enough state support for our public schools. Many of the rural counties just simply do not have the tax base to repair the schools that they have and to build new schools. There's been some progress because the skiff that the legislature has put together is slowly providing some, but it's few and far between, and it's if some high-ranking legislator decides it wants to go there. There needs to be a comprehensive effort for school construction. That being said, we just had with the Biden-Harris administration, the largest infrastructure investment in a generation. That money is coming to help us with highways and bridges and clean water and connecting everybody to high-speed internet. And rural counties are getting a lot of that. And in fact, most of our performance-based incentives in economic development have gone toward the rural counties in North Carolina because we see them as an untapped resource. And I think you're going to start seeing that more and more. You've got a lot of people working from home, and they'd rather live more cheaply and in wonderful, I grew up in rural eastern North Carolina. I get it, you know, what a great place to live. So I think we need to take advantage of all of that.
Thank you, sir.
Vice Chair Duncan? Superintendent.
No, please.
Superintendent, go
Oh,
ahead.
thank you. Thank you so much for being here this morning with us, Governor. I normally get to see you at councils. Yeah, yes. Well, I am the world's best boss. And this was a gift.
The Office fan.
This was a gift from my team. I did not give it to myself. So I am, as I was said, we always get to sit together at Council of State, and it's nice to see you in this arena instead. I'm going to refer back to a common trope in the political space, which is that you cannot rightfully fund on a check. And my response to that is usually, well, the Leandro Comprehensive Remedial Plan does have a price tag, and of course that's being worked out in the courts right now. But I would like to make a suggestion to this board, and that is that the Comprehensive Remedial Plan was created well before the pandemic, did not include the science of reading, did not address the very specific fix that needed to be made in the way that our pre-service teachers were learning to teach children to read, and the way that our current teachers were teaching children to read. And because of the bipartisan Excellent Public Schools Act that you referenced, all students are seeing double-digit gains in reading proficiency, including our African American students, our Hispanic students, and our American Indian students. And that was not a part of the Comprehensive Remedial Plan. Right now, spending in education in the United States has increased even when adjusted for inflation. However, gains are flat. New York is now spending $30,000 per student, and they've seen no movement in NAEP scores, in reading proficiency or math proficiency, between 2002 and 2020. Now, I know we need to spend more on education, but we don't have a roadmap to do that right now. We have an outdated calendar, which everyone at this board table agrees that the calendar does nothing to serve our students and our teachers and our parents. We have geographical problems that money so far has not been able to solve with getting high quality teachers in our most rural areas. We heard a superintendent from the northeastern part of the state tell us yesterday that when young people find out where they're located, they say, no thanks, I'm not gonna come there. We have a profession in teaching that is stuck in another era and that pays teachers like it's 1950 as though it were a secondary income for a spouse. But we also have a problem in that the cost of benefits for teachers has grown 79% in North Carolina since 2002. And I don't know how we're going to solve that problem. A decade ago, the benefits package for a teacher was 11%. Now it's 36%. It costs $60 million to raise teacher pay 1%. And so I don't know how to solve that problem either. We have an accountability model that is broken, that does not allow us to have effective and efficient service delivery to our schools. And so, while I don't disagree that we need to spend more, it's how we spend the money that matters, and the Comprehensive Remedial Plan is not going to get us there. And so it will be up to this board to figure out what the roadmap is. Because if we're going to invest more money, and if we're going to make our public schools the best they can be, so it's not just a sound basic education, but an incredible public education, which is the cornerstone of our democracy, we're going to have to do better with a plan for how we're going to spend that money. Thank you, Governor.
I'll just, there's a lot to unpack there, but I think, yes, there's gonna be a lot of debate on how we invest the funds. The problem is, we've got to get to the point where the legislature's willing to say our public schools are important enough for us to invest these funds. And this board and the department has got to make decisions about where that funding goes. I think it's real easy for us to say our teachers need to be paid substantially more. So if we just start there to help us attract and retain great teachers and principals, that's a lot, and something that is not that complicated.
Yeah, I would just add that I agree with the superintendent that we have a lot of opportunities to improve the education system in North Carolina. And improving the system starts with a rededication to the importance of the public education system in North Carolina, and a renewed commitment to the teachers and principals and superintendents that lead the public education system. Yes, we do need to update the comprehensive plan. We have a strategic plan which we put in place, we've modified, and yet little action is being taken in large part on leveraging the strategic plan. So we will update the comprehensive plan, and we'll continue to advocate for more funding for our students, and we'll continue to use the money that we have wisely and look for ways to use it even more effectively than what we are now, because that's what North Carolina expects of us. And we're going to continue to be committed to the public school students and teachers across this state, because that's what makes our state great. But Governor, one thing I'd like your comments on is, ever since I was born in this state, I've recognized that we have constantly had a can-do attitude. Growing up in a rural part of North Carolina, as well as in one of our state's major cities, I saw that across the full spectrum of people that I grew up with and interacted with. There was always this belief that we live in a great state, but we're gonna make it even better. And unfortunately, I feel like in the current environment, we spend too much time disagreeing instead of committing to move forward together. How do we recapture that spirit, Governor?
Well, I think it is trying to reach a coalition of people who believe in the value of public schools. Unfortunately, a number of our leaders have given up on our public schools to the point of trying to dismantle them when more than 8 out of 10 children still go to public schools. So I think building the coalition of people who believe in public schools and can convey that to the legislature. I think the legislature is not reflecting the general public's desire to make our public schools better and to make sure that we support them. I think you see that in talking with people out there. I think you see that in polling. And I think trying to rally around the importance of public schools and, yeah, disagree on how we make them better. And I know there's salary issues of how you do it, and do you do it across the board, or where you make more incentives, and there's a lot of work being done on that right now, but we can find ways to invest. This is one of the things that should bring us together. Our public schools are one of the issues that should bring us together.
I think we got time for one more.
Right here.
Oh, Lieutenant Governor? Yeah, sure.
Thank you for being here first off, Governor. You know, you mentioned about the fact of us having a diverse workforce and a diverse higher education system. I believe that the key to driving what we're all after here, which is excellence, is having a diverse public education system as well. Giving parents absolute control of their children's educational destiny. You asked the question about what struck the governor the most about his travels in schools. You know what struck me the most? What struck me the most is the amount of conversations that I have had with parents who have gotten vouchers that have literally transformed their students, their children's lives, transformed their lives fundamentally, driven them into being able to go to college, driven them into giving their family a better life altogether. If we forget about the fact that we need to give parents the right to have absolute control over their children's educational destiny, we are failing here. I've heard a lot about the public education system. I'm concerned about the students and the parents inside of that system. And And I'm not concerned so much about a sound basic education. What we want is excellence. We don't want just a sound basic education. We want a world-class system that delivers in every corner of this state. And I believe that's what we need to drive for. And I will echo the governor's comments on this. Our teachers in our country as a whole are one of the most undervalued assets that we have. They aren't paid well, they aren't respected, and they aren't protected. And if this state's gonna change anything, we've got to change that and make sure that we stand up for the folks who are holding our future in our hands. And that's our teachers. And so that's my goal. That's been my goal as lieutenant governor, and hopefully that'll be my goal in the future, because we really have to come together on this to make sure that we are providing a world-class education here in North Carolina, because we got a lot of growth to do, and our children are gonna do it. So thank you.
Governor, I know you've got a busy day and a trip to God's country up in Hertford County. Do you have any?
We might could find you a seat.
Any closing comments before?
Thank you for your public service. I know that these discussions can get contentious. I do think it's important to remember we are focusing on these children who are our future, and in all our discussions, let's just make sure we keep them at the forefront. And again, grateful to all of you guys, and thank you for the time today.
Governor, thank you for
Yes,
joining
sir.
us today. Your leadership.
You? Yes, sir. Got my red for ed tie on, but.
And 1, 2, 3, and one more, and 1, 2, and 2.
Governor, I know you know Dr. Austin.
Very nice seeing you, so wonderful seeing you again.
This is Little.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Where are you at?
I'm a senior at Hayward Early College in Hayward County. Yeah.
Top 5 beautiful counties in the state.
I mean, I have to agree.
I was there yesterday.
Oh,
Thank
wow.
you.
I was there 2 days ago. I went to.
I bet you were having more fun than I was. I was at a meeting. But
Oh, yeah, I was having fun.
Willie, tell the governor your plans for graduating.
Oh, yeah, so I'm planning on going to App State University because I don't want to leave the mountains.
And I did an interview yesterday with their school newspaper.
Oh, nice. And I want to major in English and minor in computer science. And then I want to end up getting a master's in library and information science. And plan to one day end up in the public school system.
Yes! Absolutely. Thank you so much.
I hope you have safe travels.
We will.
Hey, good to see you again.
He's a 10th grader who reached out to me. Yeah, exactly.
Let's take a break and we'll reconvene at 10 o'clock. Welcome back. We're back in session and we'll continue our meeting with the superintendent's report. Superintendent Truitt.
Thank you, Chair Davis. Let's see, just waiting for the slide deck to come up. It was a busy month as usual, and I want to start with something that was touched on earlier, and that is workforce development. As this board knows, we've been laser focused on changing the narrative about K-12 public education so that we don't fall into the trap of saying, well, the purpose of third grade is to get ready for fourth grade, and the purpose of fourth grade is to get ready for fifth grade. When really the purpose of a public K-12 education is to ensure that all students are prepared for the post-secondary plans of their choice, and that even though we do have a great high school graduation rate, we don't have a great rate of the number of students who are employed, enlisted, or enrolled at the time of graduation, or who earn any kind of credential of value by the time they're 24 years old. Only 30% of students graduate from high school every year and earn a credential of workforce value by the time they are 30. And so we, to that end, have been engaging in a lot of different things to help our districts leverage all the amazing career and technical education opportunities that they give our students. And one of those things was we launched about 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago now, an employer toolkit in partnership with the North Carolina Chamber. So one of the things that I hear all the time from business and industry is, well, how can we know that we need to push down into the high school in order to start growing our local pipeline, our talent pipeline. But how do we do that? How can we engage with schools in our community? And at the same time, the Chamber had done a survey that showed that one of their biggest pain points was their growing their local talent pipeline. And so we decided to create this toolkit, which would be a way for businesses and industries to take the mystery out of engaging with their local high schools. So in this picture you see Gary Salamito, who is the President and CEO of the North Carolina Chamber, and I are sitting on a couch with Liz Bell and Molly, and we made a video that they could send out to all of their members to launch this. And we, let's go to the next slide, please. The toolkit has very specific, the toolkit is designed for employers, and it has a very specific set of suggestions for how employers can engage in their local high schools. And so we ended up, next slide please. We linked 3 different examples of videos. Carolina CAT, which is a program in Union County Public Schools. Wilkes County Schools has a great partnership with Atrium Health, and Durham Public Schools have GSK internships. And so we wanted to give other folks a chance to see what's happening in other parts of the state. So we then sent this video around, linked it to the website, shared all of the other examples, and then in the final step, there's actually a form that a business can fill out to link with the Department of Public Instruction so that we can in turn link them to the schools in their area. You know, I was in Harnett County Schools last month and got to see, I think I shared with this board, I got to see a carpentry class and an electrical class. And these students were taking electrical 1 and electrical 2. And the electrical 2 students were juniors and seniors, and the seniors were halfway through their electrical apprenticeship and had already been given job offers. And so when they turn 18 and graduate, then all they have to do is complete the second half of that apprenticeship. And these kids were gonna be making $50 an hour. So just excellent opportunity there. One of the neatest parts about my job is that I get to serve on the North Carolina Symphony Board of Trustees. And I think some of you know that I am a musician, and going to the symphony is one of my most favorite things that I do, and I've even been known to drag members of my team to the symphony to experience it for the first time. But our symphony in North Carolina is very unique because it is not the Raleigh Symphony Orchestra or the Charlotte Symphony Orchestra, as are all other orchestras in the country. It is a major orchestra that is the North Carolina Symphony. And this is significant because our symphony serves the entire state. And so they go to places where you might not be able to hear classical and popular music otherwise. And so I went to our last meeting and was able to share an update with that board because, as you all know, we are updating our arts education standards. And when those standards are updated, we will then work with the Symphony's education program team to make sure that what they are doing is aligned to our new standards, because they are in schools pushing out arts education all the time. It is Arts Education Month, and there will be lots of performances going on this month, but we're also really excited that we are very close to being able to offer an education diploma endorsement for the arts. And having attended a public arts high school myself, I am so excited about this because I learned all of my portrait of a graduate skills at my arts high school. How to manage my time, how to collaborate, all of those things were such a part of my own high school experience. So it was very exciting to be able to share all of this good news with the symphony. You know, they get a $4.5 million appropriation every year from the General Assembly, and most orchestras can't say that they receive state support. So very excited to lift that up to all of you. And we will stay tuned because Ms. Shaw Coltrane will be presenting to you all that diploma arts endorsement at some point in the near future. Next, I had the honor of being invited by our own Commissioner Steve Troxler to attend Brown Summit Middle School, which, along with the Academy at Lincoln, and another Guilford County public school, had been named by U.S. News and World Report as two of the top middle schools. One is public elementary and one is public middle school, two of the best schools in the country. And so it just turned out that Commissioner Troxler's granddaughter goes to Brown Summit Elementary School, and we were joined by all the fabulous folks you see in this picture, including Vice Chair Duncan and our own Leah Carpenter. It was a really great day. We got to see, let's go to the next slide, please. Principal Jones Goods welcomed us to Brown Summit Middle, and we got to see this really, really neat interactive activity in a social studies class where students had to look at actual physical artifacts and make observations and do some critical thinking about what the artifacts were. I always say that engagement looks, smells, and sounds a certain way. And you know it if it's there right when you walk in the room or if it's not. In every classroom we went into smelled, sounded, and looked like the kids were engaged. So that was just a wonderful day. And then the Academy at Lincoln, Principal Norman Rogers welcomed us, and we got to see, we all always love it when the students greet us, and that was incredible. But we got to see, this is actually, I'm in a band classroom right here. Kids were learning to play the guitar, and they had a very patient music teacher. I always say there's a special place in heaven for music teachers. And we just had a wonderful time, and Dr. Whitney Oakley was there, and she was, you could tell, was just a very proud superintendent, and it was a pleasure to spend some time at those two Guilford County schools. And then finally, last week, Drs. Marr and Smith and I had a chance to present our school performance grade redesign plans to the House Select Committee on Education Reform. It was quite a lengthy presentation. We were given all the time we needed, and there were about 30 minutes of questions afterwards. There were a lot of really good questions asked, a lot of engagement from this committee, and it was very, I think, gratifying for for all of us that have spent so much time on this work to hear their interest and take all of their great questions. And with that, my report concludes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any questions or comments for Superintendent?
Mr.
Yep.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, the treasurer.
sorry, I tried to pick up on all of her comments and the Governor Cooper's comments. Do we ever differentiate terminology, because I think that's so important going forward, between vouchers and opportunity scholarships? And do we use those terms interactively, interchangeably, when maybe they shouldn't be?
So, Mr. Treasurer, they are the same thing. I think one has a positive connotation and one does not.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lieutenant Governor?
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you for the work that you're doing here, because I think, my comments earlier talked about diversity of education and K-12 education. It's very important for us to have that diversity because, again, we have a diverse workforce. We have a diverse university system, a higher education system. We need diversity in K-12 education as well. My travels of things that I've seen that I've been super impressed with on this end. I went to Yancey County and walked into a classroom, a high school classroom in Yancey County, and saw a simulator, Caterpillar simulator, worth $100,000. Students are coming out 12th grade getting certificates, coming out operating heavy equipment, and not just operating the heavy equipment on the job site. They're learning to do it remote. They're operating these vehicles by remote control at remote locations, and so these skills these kids are learning here are incredible, and the partnerships that we're seeing with private industry it just blows your mind. I walked into a shop that I believe was in Iredell County, and they were bragging to me about their automotive shop, and I thought, so I'm gonna go down here, it's gonna be this one bay, it's gonna be this one car and 12 students. That's what we think of. We think of that in our mind. I walk into this automotive shop, I thought I was at the Toyota dealership or the Ford dealership. They run these things like real car dealerships, and you look and you say, well, where are they getting the money? The money is being invested by the employers themselves because they know they're going to need to restock their workforce. And so these investments that are being made on that end are paying huge dividends for us, and I think they'll continue to pay huge dividends for us as we move forward to build a state. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. I agree. I think there's a general consensus that business and industry really do need to step up, and some have, but there's room for improvement. And I think a lot of our public school systems do benefit from the investments that business and industry make. I've been to that same auto shop in Iredell County. It's absolutely incredible. And we've seen the same thing up in Buncombe County with the Pratt Whitney plant there, 1 million square foot plant that pulls from Haywood County for also, and has a special certification program, 16-week program at AV Tech. There's just so many amazing and innovative things going on in the workforce development space.
Dr. Oxendine.
Yes, thank you so much for mentioning the North Carolina Symphony. It just took me back to my grade 5, which was about 100,000 years ago, and having to learn the song, "This land is your land, this land is my land," and all the students, it was a segregated school system, Indian schools, and we had to learn that song. Every 5th grader in Robeson County in the Indian schools had to learn that song. And when we went to Pembroke, it was Pembroke State College at the time, and that's where the symphony came. And we all stood up, every 5th grader in Indian schools in Robeson County, and sang that song. So that was the introduction to the symphony. It's a hidden jewel, isn't it?
It really is, yes.
Thank you so much.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that I love the symphony as well. 4th grade, which was not, for me, which is not quite 100,000 years ago, but it seems like it. I picked up the violin and started learning the violin, and would go see the symphony every year, and had a orchestra teachers who were connected with either Greensboro or North Carolina Symphony, and so music is very important to me. A little kid once said this to once. I said, I'm not a musician, but I am one in my brain. So, yeah.
Vice Chair Duncan?
Just one last comment. At the Lincoln Middle School that was visited, we're lifting up the arts this month. One of the young students there, who's very humble, would not tell you herself. The superintendent had to drag it out of her. But she actually spent a year on Broadway as the star of The Lion King. She's only in the 7th grade now. So it's a very talented young lady that obviously with a great arts orientation and skills.
Very much so.
Good things happening in Guilford County.
That's right. Say that again.
Got a second on that one.
I'll let Leah be my spokesman on that. Spokesperson, excuse me, on that.
Yes. Thank you, Superintendent, for your report.
Thank you.
We'll now move to our committee reports, and we'll begin with the Business Operations Committee led by Vice Chair Alan Duncan. Vice Chair Duncan.
Well, and also led by John Blackburn, and we had a robust schedule and a lot of things that we covered yesterday, so we'll review those quickly today. We had 3 items on action first read. The first one was the policy amendment for North Carolina Public Schools and the allotment manual. These are some specific situations that exist that needed to be revised for the allotment policy, and Jennifer Bennett reviewed each of the 5 different areas that had those allotment revisions made. That is for our approval. BizOp 2 was presented by Dr. Alex Charles, the Director of Federal Programs. Extended Learning and Integrated Student Support Services Competitive Grant Program, which we all call ELLIS. And in the ELLIS program, those are community grants. We had already approved the RFP process, and so we were providing the information for the recommendations from the department for those grants that should be awarded to districts around the state this year. Our BizOp 3 item was the Plasma Games Grant Award recommendations. Dr. Charles Aiken presented this, and again, we had approved the RFP process a while ago, and Dr. Aiken reviewed that and made sure that the criteria were set out for us. The recommendations were provided again there for recommendations are for programs around the state, although we did notice that the Northwest was the one area that did not have any in this particular one. There were not sufficient applications to use all the funds that had been allocated for the Plasma Games Grant Award, so there's some amount of money that will not be used that was available, but for those who applied and had a sound application, there was fortunately will be some grant money that will go to them. We now move to our action items, BizOp 4, which is the item that took by far the longest time, because it's a very important item. It should have. That's the report to the North Carolina General Assembly that was made and presented by Alexis Schaus about funding in arrears. And all this is a collaboration of statutes that exist that have certain requirements in addition to methodology for how money is distributed around the state. I think Alexis Schaus, as she often does, did a wonderful job of taking a very complex subject and getting it into 25 slides in a way that it was at least comprehensible for everyone. And I noticed that we did, I was looking around to see if we were having glazed eyes or if we were really registering on this. And we really were registering and engaged on this. And that's important because this is distribution of a lot of money. And it represents a little bit of a change. There will be some people who are happy about the change, and as inevitably the case, there will be a few people who are not. But I think through the presentation, you can see the effort is to be equitable. You just might not feel it in the specific year. It may be the following year that you may have either an increase or a decrease, either to make up for what you were overfunded the previous year or an increase to get you back to where you should have been. But the funding process is focused on obviously first and foremost following the statutes, and just equally as important to be fair to all the districts as best you possibly can reach fairness with distribution. Thought it was very helpful that Dr. Phipps participating in the discussion made some comments about the effect on rural districts and the fact that this was an approach that appeared to be very workable for rural districts in ways that were important to the financial health of the districts. And so I thought that was some important input that we heard from one of our board advisors. So we had that as a discussion item last month, an action item this month. Again, one of the more significant items that we will have before us. Biz Op 5 was the American Rescue Plan ESSER 3 update for proposals for spending money that has been recategorized. There was one additional item that was added and reviewed that we had not seen during the discussion period the month before. We then had a discussion led by Mr. Hall and Ms. Kamnitz from the Government Affairs Committee relating to expenditure of these funds, and the conclusion was that the committee supported, and as does BizOp, supported the recommendations from DPI, with one requested in the Rethink grants that careful attention be paid to the fact that there's some focus on the lower performing districts being given special attention, because Rethink grants are apparently having some very good success, and we think it's important, the committee thinks it's important that that be part of the focus of the work, and certainly staff was responsive to that. Biz Op 6, again, is a very important report, and again involves significant resources. And we've had some discussion earlier today about whether things were Leandro included or not. This is an item that really was Leandro included as part of the comprehensive plan, as were several other items that have been discussed today. In this particular one, it's adequate funding for exceptional children, but it's focused on doing it a different way, which is weighted funding, taking what the disability is and assessing appropriate amounts, if you will, depending upon the category or level of disability that is being dealt with by the schools, and providing the support for the students that is so necessary for them to succeed. A lot of time has been spent on this. We have received several reports on it. Jennifer Bennett reported yesterday, and Dr. Hudgens was here. Both EC and financial and business services have been extremely involved in this for a period of at least a year and a half. And I think we all realized pretty quickly it again involves some very complex considerations and some complicated ways of looking at things to try to get at a fair approach. Again, this is going to represent change. And one of the key provisions is the funding cannot be any less than it has been before in what we are voting on. But the big reveal, I think as Ms. Bennett characterized it at the end, was finally trying to get some cost numbers around this. What would it mean in terms of what the cost would be? And as you recall, it was an additional $223 million in terms of providing these services in the way that we will want to provide them for each child. That $223 million will be part of the report that's made to the General Assembly. We appreciate the General Assembly's interest in this very important topic, and they would ask for a report and ask for the detail that was provided in this report in terms of what a full assessment, if you will, what the costs are. So we're hopeful, and we'll be obviously ready to provide additional information and to explain the information that's been provided both by the department and if needed by the board in order to support our exceptional children and their needs. This is a really positive step. We want to make sure the calculations are right, but it's a positive step for our children that so much deserve our attention. Biz Op 7 is a report to North Carolina General Assembly on the Consolidated Teacher Bonus Program. Sneha Shah Coltrane presented this to us, and it was a brief presentation, and the focus of this was to talk about the timing issue, and that the report by necessity is not really complete this year. We're trying to change the timing where we can key it off a time where we can have a complete report on the time frame that would allow the report to be the most meaningful that it could be. So the primary point of the report was less about what's in the report and more about working on the timing to make sure it's an effective report in terms of information it's able to generate and have the department have adequate time to analyze. Biz Op 8 is again a report to North Carolina General Assembly, and this one's on improving education, financial, and information transparency, all of which really means it's the business modernization work that we've been doing, which is how we refer to it. But I do like the fancy name. It's always nice to have that. The presenter was Barry Pace, and he went through different facets of where we are, starting with the accomplishments. And the accomplishments are many and significant from where we have been on improved place. We also then talked about where we were in terms of implementation in districts all around the state, and there are some significant markers in terms of time for some districts, and some of those districts are some of our largest districts that are implementing over the course of the next couple of years. Still a lot of work to be done. And finally, we moved to next steps, which are, what are the things as we're forward-looking about this? What are the things that we have coming up in terms of how to deal with this, how to best integrate it, and how to use the information that we're going to be generating in a way that is most beneficial to the department and to the board in terms of being able to analyze the data and use the data effectively to help our students. At the end of the day, if you're going to make this kind of investment, the focus has got to be get it implemented with fidelity and be in a position to help students. And so that was the report that was provided. BizOp 9, the last action item we had, was a report to the North Carolina General Assembly on developmental day centers awarded grants. And we're not awarding any grants as of this time based on the timing, although Dr. Hutchins explained that we were encumbering resources that could be eligible for those grants at a time when we're in a position to be able to make such grants. The grants depend upon funds that are unexpended in other areas, and so that, and this is a new responsibility. We have not had this one before. So the department has implemented procedures and efforts to follow and encumber appropriate sums, and this is something we will deal with in the future. It was a short report because there's really not been action taken other than preparatory action at this point, but we will at some point undoubtedly deal with this, and I don't think we've dealt with providing grants to developmental day centers before, at least in my memory, so. A new item. BizOp 10 was the rules update on the proposed permanent rule, and this was a discussion item for paid parental leave. We spent a lot of time on this issue as we worked through policy, now working through rules. Ryan Collins, who does an excellent job with rules and whose name will appear in several different committee reports today because he's worked on rules in so many different ways, gave a quick update on what the key points were. We will probably have a little more time for discussion when this comes up for approval at our next meeting, to the extent that there are still questions that may exist. That then brings us to our consent items. They are as follows. BizOp 11, Career and Technical Education, the grade expansion program grant applications recommendations. This is focused primarily on middle schools. BizOp 12 is a report to the North Carolina General Assembly, the Education Workforce Innovation Commission report. This is an annual report from what's called EWIC, and that is a commission that includes involvement by the state board and the department. And so that annual report is there for your review, and it has been. BizOp 13 is a report to the General Assembly on Feminine Hygiene Products Grant Program. Dr. Alan Essig prepared that report, and again, that is now an annual report since that funding has been approved in recent times. BizOp 14 is a report to the North Carolina General Assembly on Principal Recruitment Supplement. Dr. Cynthia Martin was preparing that report, and obviously an important topic. This is an annual report that's received, and we did not go into depth on it because it's not really, there's nothing that's really different on this report than from others, but it was there for you to carefully review. BizOp 15 is certification of a finance officer, and we are always happy to have a report where we can certify a finance officer, and will continue to be. We then had the updates on contracts reports, on which there were no questions, and the update on the monthly budget report, on which there were no questions. Very full agenda, and appreciate the staff's very hard work on all these items. There's a lot of very complex issues that were dealt with, and appreciate that and the board's interest and attention as we drew that coveted #1 slot for the first time ever. Thank you. Any questions?
So BizOp's bringing us the following action items 1 through 9 and 11 through 15. Any questions for Vice Chair Duncan? Hearing none, we'll move now to the Healthy Responsible Students Committee led by Mr. Reginald Keenan. Mr. Keenan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Along with Winnet Hall, Mr. Chair, we bring 2 action items before the board. The first item that we discussed yesterday was the final adoption of temporary rules on interscholastic athletics. As you know, Ryan did a great job yesterday, making changes or recommending certain changes. Nothing really substantive, more clarity. And as we know, back in 2023, legislature demanded that we adopt temporary rules for interscholastic athletics for the year 2024 and 2025. And again, thank Ryan for all the work that he and his office has done on these rules. And secondly, we had to report to the NC General Assembly 2022 to 23 consolidated data report. And this, of course, it's been before us many times. And Ms. Curran Farrell in office has done a very good job as to point out the issues that our children are dealing with. As you know, the data report, the annual report to the General Assembly, and it covers reports on school crime and violence, suspension, expulsion, use of corporal punishment, reassignments for disciplinary reasons, alternate learning placements, and dropout rates. And based on that data, there seemed to be an increase on the crime and violence, particularly the possession of controlled substance was number one. Short-term suspension had increased, but there was some positive notes in the decrease of possession of weapons and decrease also in dropouts. And as we know, it's a lot of work to continue to be done. Our children still need our help, and a lot of the issues that I contend relates to a lot of non-academic barriers. And again, we have talked about many different ways to try to stay on top of that. The numbers need to be decreasing, and as a board, we will continue to work hard to make a difference in the children's lives, because it's a lot to be done as well. And with that concludes the report.
So HRS committee is bringing two items, HRS 1 and 2, for our consideration today. Any questions for Mr. Keenan? Then we'll turn to the Educator Standards Practice Committee led by Dr. Olivia Oxendine. Dr. Oxendine.
Thank you, Chair Davis. I am Olivia Oxendine. I chair this committee, and joining me in that responsibility is Dr. Donna Tipton-Rogers. Bringing to the board this morning is ES&P 1 for action. And this is, the motion is to accept the final version of the temporary rules pursuant to Session Law 2023-128. Ryan Collins gave an update, not really an update, but kind of a review of the amendments and changes to that particular area, body of law. And there are two amendments. There are two amendments to existing rules. There are 5 amendments and the adoption of 6 new areas. So that is coming this morning for final vote by this board. And these, pending approval today, these rules, temporary rules, I should say, go into effect no later than April 8th of this 2024. The next item is a discussion item, ES&P 2. And the motion is that we recommend the report to the General Assembly that was presented yesterday by Dr. Seiberg. And this report is pursuant to the annual report on our educator preparation programs. Again, that report is due and will be submitted to the General Assembly after we approve that report next month. So there are 2 statutes relative to this report. GS 115C 26935B is the law that requires the report itself. The other statute is 115C 26950, and this speaks to the EPP report card that is made available to the public through our dashboard. So highlights from that report shared by Dr. Seiberg is that we do have 55 EPPs in North Carolina. We have approximately 16,000 students across our EPPs. While that represents a 10% decline since 2022, it also, I guess if there's a redeeming feature to this, it's a 43% increase over a 10-year period. So that's the good news. And other highlights from that report, the candidate, well, there's, I think, maybe 9 areas of data points that are presented in the dashboard. And Dr. Seiberg drew attention to candidate satisfaction, which is about 65%. Employer satisfaction is about 93%. Teacher performance, based on the NESIS, the North Carolina Educator Evaluation System, is 93%. And the teachers who met or exceeded growth is about 79%. speculating as to the candidate satisfaction, which might have been down a bit, 65%. Some speculation around that is that it could be due to teachers having to acclimate to a different way of teaching reading through the science of reading. And in the next few years, we can hopefully anticipate an increase in that area of candidate satisfaction. We had 3 updates. The introduction of those 3 updates was by Julie Pittman, Special Advisor for Teacher Engagement, and also joining her was Dr. Angie Molinex. So kind of 2 categories of updates. One was Grow Your Own, presented by Matthew Bristow Smith. He is the principal of the Edgecombe County Early College. He talked about, it was just really exciting, and it has a lot to do with the value of partnerships in communities and the value of enthusiastic leaders that get behind efforts to make sure that Edgecombe County has teachers in the future coming from Edgecombe County in their school system. And it's based on some of it is based on a incentive, I should say, is based on a 3-year $10,000 scholarship that is renewable by, I think, up to 3 years teaching in the school system. Also joining in that presentation was Stephanie Wallace, a teacher who is also the director of the Teacher Candidate Cadet Program in Winston-Salem Forsyth Schools. And we had a very interesting presentation. This was introduced by Dr. Molinex, and the presenter was Dr. Otis Smallwood, Superintendent of Bertie County Schools. And it was all about affordability in terms of housing. And in his presentation, he highlighted that there will be 24 2-bedroom apartments owned by the Bertie County Schools Foundation. The other partners in that endeavor are Golden Leaf Foundation, the State Employees Credit Union, and Bertie County Schools, and the town of Windsor. And the total capital investment is about $4.3 million. And the one point that stands out in my mind, Dr. Smallwood talked about how excited the citizens in the communities are to know about, to see the housing, the apartments under construction. So it stands out as a kind of a point of pride in that county. And the final item is a consent item, and it is recommended, the motion goes is that this way, is that it's recommended that the State Board of Education, and I want to name these community colleges since we have the public listening in, and I failed to mention them yesterday, but it's to prove these community colleges for initial authorization as an EPP in North Carolina and the area. They're going to be preparing candidates in the area of elementary education. We have Cape Fear Community College, James Sprunt Community College, Sand Hills Community College, South Piedmont Community College, Guilford Technical Community College, and Rowan Cabarrus Community College. And that concludes my report.
So ES&P is bringing us 2 items, ES&P 1 and 3. Any questions for Dr. Oxendine? Then we'll next turn to the Education, Innovation, and Charter Schools Committee led by Mr. John Blackburn. Mr. Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm joined in this work by my co-chair, Ms. Jill Kamnitz. Our first order of business yesterday was a report from the Charter Schools Review Board by Ms. Picaro. Last month, the CSRB approved 3 charter schools for 10-year renewals, 4 charter schools for 7-year renewals, 7 for 3-year renewals, and 3 more schools will be voted on this month. 6 charter schools also presented on their renewals, and 5 reported on their school improvement. The next meeting of CSRB is next week on Monday and Tuesday, if anybody, so it is on the platform if you'd like to live stream, watch it. Will be in session next Monday and Tuesday. The next item we had was action on first read. Our recommendation is that we approve 2 cooperative innovative high schools, one Dare Early College and Early High School, and then Rockingham, which is a CTE offered through Rockingham Community College. So that is action on first read, Mr. Chair. Our action item is EICS 2, You heard a wonderful report last month about CTE and the impact that it's making in small rural communities. And so we recommend that to you for action this month. Our final item, we have a discussion item. We are continuing to talk to the CSRB folks on renewal criteria. So the members of my committee, Ms. Camnitz and I, and members of CSRB, as well as the chair and vice chair, and Mr. Fafario, we've continued to have very productive conversations with them about the charter school policy amendments, so we can move that forward. Our plan is that we'll vote on that in April. So that's still for discussion. Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
So EICS is bringing us 2 items, 1 and 2, for consideration today. Any questions for Mr. Blackburn? Then we'll turn to Student Learning and Achievement Committee led by Ms. Jill Camnitz. Ms. Camnitz.
Thank you, Chair Davis. I am joined by Vice Chair Olivia Oxendine in doing the work of this committee. I am going to begin with a summary of our meetings yesterday, and then following that, we will pick up one discussion item that we decided to delay until today, and so that will be the last thing that we do. We had 2 items of new business. As usual, Dr. Day started us off with a standards revision update. The standards writing team is working on draft 3 of Healthful Living at this time. The World Language Data Review Committee is analyzing the data from the draft 2 survey. And then yesterday we took a closer look at the arts. These standards consist of 4 different areas: dance, music, theater arts, and visual arts. All of them also contain 4 common strands: connect, create, present, and respond. Each standard falls within one of these strands. We reviewed sample standards and objectives from draft 2 in each of these 4 disciplines. At the current time, the draft 2 survey has been released and will close on the end of this month. And then the DRC and the SWT will work on the draft 3, which will come to us for final approval within the next few months. Dr. Wren, Dr. McBride, and Ms. Cabero led us through a very interesting discussion on the artificial intelligence guidance that was recently developed by DPI's Office of Digital Teaching and Learning and has been distributed to the PSUs across the state. There is much potential and also some concerns about the use of AI in education, but as the team told us yesterday, the risks of ignoring it are greater than the risks of implementing it. So this document gives school leaders guidance on how to implement it responsibly. As AI continues to develop, the guidelines will continue to need updating as well. The components of this document align with the North Carolina Digital Learning Plan and are organized around 5 broad areas: leadership and vision, human capacity, curriculum and instruction, data privacy and cybersecurity, and then finally technology, infrastructure, and devices. We also heard about 2 AI summits that are planned for this spring and AI collaboratives that are being formed, both opportunities for school leaders and teachers to gain a deeper understanding of safe and effective practices for implementing AI and for developing instructional materials. I congratulate the digital learning team at DPI for being out in front of this fast-moving change that is already affecting our teachers and our students. We have 2 items for action on first read. SLA 1 is a state board policy amendment to GRAD-006, Accelerated Pathway for Early Graduation. Ms. Shaw Coltrane went through this quickly with us. The policy is being amended for technical and legal clarifications as the legislation applies to school districts, not charter schools. So mistakenly, it was, I believe, applied to all PSUs, when in fact it's just the LEAs. SLA 2 is a 2024 invitation to submit instructional materials and textbooks for evaluation and adoption for K-12 science. Amy Hobgood walked us through this process. Once we approve this invitation today, it will be sent to all publishers on the North Carolina registry. The science standards were approved last year, and this step is part of the installation process. Following receipt of bids, the textbook commissioners and the textbook evaluation advisors will review and evaluate the textbooks submitted to verify content alignment to the North Carolina course of study, and also applying quality criteria to the materials, to the bids. Their recommendations will come to us for approval next fall. We have 2 items of action. SLA 3 is another state board policy amendment to test-016 on the use of state designated assessments for the North Carolina teacher evaluation process. As Mr. Michael walked us through last month, credential and certification exams and performance-based measurements are used as proofs of learning in many of our CTE courses, rather than assessments at the conclusion of the course. So this amendment revises the policy to include these exams and measurements in the North Carolina teacher evaluation process. SLA 4 is an amendment to the Every Student Succeeds Act, or the ESSEP state plan. Dr. Marr, Dr. Gibbs, and Mr. Charles all walked us through parts of this presentation. As you will recall, in January, we discussed several possible amendments to this plan. After further discussion by staff, it was concluded that a comprehensive review of the plan was needed, with the goal of bringing a revised plan forward next winter. This gives us time to align the plan with the potential school performance grade redesign and the developing long-term strategy for school improvement support. However, we do need to approve one amendment that was proposed in January. This will modify the identification year of the 5 federal designations of schools needing support to the start of the 25-26 school year rather than the 24-25 school year. This aligns the identification and exit years, increasing our ability to support the schools who need this support. We have one consent item, which is a report to the North Carolina General Assembly, cursive and multiplication tables report. This annual report lists the compliance of each LEA and the requirements regarding cursive writing and the memorization of multiplication tables. For our discussion item, which is SLA 5, also a state board policy amendment on the organization and structure of Governor School, but also a Governor School update, and we'll turn to Ms. Shaw Coltrane to start us off on this item.
Thank you so much. I'm just so grateful for Mr. Fafaria for thinking about how this could be a way we could end these great 2 days, because Governor School truly is one of the gems of our state, a shining light. Those of us that know anybody who went, they will say it was one of the most life-changing experiences. And Dr. Green's
My oldest daughter.
yes, will be coming.
Just got her letter yesterday.
Letters went out, so super exciting, super exciting. So today we're going to give you some background. We're going to share a video, and then we actually have Dr. Michael Elder, who is the chair of your Board of Governors, who works with us daily, from Onslow County, the Director of Career and College and Career Readiness, and we're super excited to have our chairman here for that, and he's going to share with you a policy as well to update that we have in our state board policies. And we also have Rodney Allen here, our coordinator of Governor School, and Emily Satterfield, our assistant coordinator. Those are the 2 that make it happen the whole year for these 800 students to come to this incredible opportunity. So we'll just get started. So our Governor School is the oldest and is the first Governor School in the nation. It began in 1963, and we just celebrated our 60th anniversary, which is just super exciting, and the Governor School Foundation helped with the grand celebration. It has inspired close to 20 to 30 Governor Schools across the country, and so we just continue to hold it up as a beacon of our commitment to public education. Over 40,000 students have attended. Again, some of you probably know some of you maybe some, And it's just an incredible experience. This summer, we will have 800 students that were invited, were invited this past week. And we will continue to be, we have 2 sites, one at Governor School East at Meredith College. They have been our partner for over 20 years, and so grateful to Meredith College. And then we have a new partner at Greensboro College, which thanks to Mr. Duncan for helping us with that as well. And we are super excited to be going to Greensboro College and working with the president there, and that whole team has just been absolutely incredible. And you know, what we have realized is being at a smaller school where they don't have other competitive summer experiences, we think could be really great for our long-term support, because as you know, West has been moving different campuses a lot lately, and we're hoping to find a long-term partner there. So what is Governor School? So some of you may know, but some of you may not. So just going to give you a little bit of information. We are now a 4-week residential program for some of our most talented and high-achieving students in our state. We have an incredible, diverse learning community. A student comes and they attend classes Monday through Saturday. It is jam-packed. And they are attending primarily 3 courses. One is Area 1 in a select discipline area. We have 10 core areas that you're going to hear about in the video, which is the area that they apply to go in. Dr. Green, what area?
Natural science.
Natural science, yes. So we have natural science and lots of other arts areas as well. And they spend 70% of their time in that discipline. What also, though, adds to this incredible program is Area 2 and Area 3. Those 2 courses, one is about applied philosophy, kind of in modern day philosophy, and the other one is self and society. And what we really want our students to understand when they leave is to have that great conversation, right? Is to be able to sit down with different people of different backgrounds, of different perspectives, and coming together and being able to share, but also listen and ask questions. And that is the beauty of this. They also have like a zillion elective seminars that students get to choose from in the evenings. They are busy until 10 o'clock at night. We have campus speakers. And what's really particularly special is that there are no grades or tests. And so one of the kind of tenets of Governor School is that they're learning for the sake of learning. And that is one of the most beautiful things that especially these students who come, typically being some of the highest achievers in our state, have a lot of pressure on them, right, in their home schools. And so being able to come and be amongst their peers, for some, they have never been around as many, for some, they've never been around a number of peers at that high achieving level. And so it's just a beautiful, beautiful environment. But instead of hearing about from us, we're now going to share with you a 2-minute video that our friend Elaine Darby and Rodney did. There is a 5-minute version on your link as well, in case you're interested. Feel free to watch the longer version, but here is a short version for today, where you'll hear from kids.
Just a point of order. Nobody use your mics during the next couple of minutes.
The North Carolina Governor School, a tradition of inspiring North Carolina's most talented and high-achieving students by fostering a love of knowledge, curiosity, and thoughtfulness for over 60 years. The nation's oldest statewide summer residential program for gifted high school students, which has been a model for similar programs throughout the country. The North Carolina Governor School is a 4-week summer residential program, which
We're just going to stop it right now. We did try it. We did try it 2 days ago, but I think we have a new setup last night, so we do apologize. But I do encourage you to watch this. You will hear all from students talking about their incredible experience. Superintendent Truitt got to talk to the students about that. Really just beautiful commentary from students from across the state, diverse students, really sharing. We have even a lot of footage in the longer version. Well, we actually then cut that out of students sobbing on the last day because the intensity of this experience where they truly get together and are able to experience growth and learning with peers like themselves from across the state of different backgrounds, different faiths, different ways of thinking is truly cherished. So I really encourage you to please watch that video. I think it will help bring it alive for you. So we, the Office of Advanced Learning and Gifted Education, thanks to Superintendent Truitt, was able to welcome Governor School into our family when Superintendent Truitt came on board. And we have been on a mission, relentless mission, of strengthening the foundation for the next 60 years. The analogy that I use, it's like a historic home. It's a beautiful home that has given incredible gifts of excellence to 40,000 students. But we need to shore it up, right? We need to shore it up, make sure we feel good about what's happening there every day, make sure we have the procedures in place, because it is unlike anything else our state board and the department does. And so we have, just to let you know, we have been working to build capacity across the state with our districts with a clear partnership. We have become more transparent with the application and selection process, which wasn't before. And so our districts are incredibly grateful for that. Everything is, they know they can ask us, and we have rubrics, and it's just been really super exciting. We have developed a program within our allocated budget. We have not done that, and we have attained that, and we are so grateful for the finance team, Alexis and her shop, as well as our Board of Governors and our Governor School Foundation, because they do fundraise money to support daily needs, on-site needs, but also support with scholarships. But we have ensured that we're using those funds effectively and appropriately. We have increased our host campus payments close to 8%, I think, which we're super excited about, thanks to our Board of Governors making that a priority, because we don't pay them near market value. We have increased tuition a little bit, which most districts do cover. And if not, the scholarships help any student in need from the foundation ensure that. And we have implemented a lot of cost-saving measures. So I just want you to know, as the board, that we are not in the red. Is that how you say that? We're in the good side, the clean side. That is something, we make sure we do. The other thing that we have done and really ensured is very clear with our students and staffs and administrators is ensure we have clear handbooks. We have clear handbooks on the lessons. We have clear handbooks on the expectations, just very clear so there's not a misunderstanding. I feel very confident about what's happened in the past, but I feel even more confident about what is happening now and in the future in our classrooms throughout the summer. We also have really made a point to communicate with families and even translated documents to ensure that everybody has access, updating our policies and procedures, which Dr. Elder will bring to you today. And we've improved our relationship with the foundation, with ensuring that we all are kind of together moving forward. So we have just been we're super excited of where we've gone for the last 60 years and continue to be grateful for all of you. Now, Rodney's going to go over some data with you, and then we'll do we have a special guest. Miss Kim Jones will be coming because she has a lot of experience, our Teacher of the Year with Governor School, and then we will get y'all out of here. Rodney.
Thank you, Sneha. We've talked a lot about what makes Governor School great and historically what has made Governor School great, but what I'm going to show you is why we see increasing level of interest among today's students, right? It's great that we've been here for 60 years, but what's the appeal to today's students? So as you look at what we've got here, we want to talk to you about over the course of a 5-year period from 2016 to 2021, we did see the level of nominations decreased. But over the last 4 years, we've seen an increase. We attribute this to improved communications with the school district, new recruitment resources, which Sneha alluded to, videos, documents, to not only help once students decide to apply to Governor's School, but to encourage students to apply and to empower school counselors and folks at the district level to be able to help students find Governor's School or recommend Governor's School to students. One of the things we have discovered is that it's a highly competitive program, and as such, there are far more applications that come to schools that never make it to us. So even though we can say that we received quite a few applications ourselves, this year we received over 1,900 applications, which was the highest it's been in several years, from all over the state. There are far more applications that are coming to the school district. So if you look at the chart in your documents, you will see that we surveyed the schools this year to find out how many applications weren't coming to us. We only can accept 800 students, and based upon the population of the schools, they're limited on how many they can submit so that we can have some baseline regional representation. And you can see that far more, based on the results of this survey, we had about 762 more applications that were coming to school districts than came to us. Now, these were just the LEAs that we heard from, and we do accept students from all North Carolina schools, home schools, charter schools, private schools, federal schools, UNC schools. If you are a student in North Carolina and you're attending school, you can apply to the Governor's School if you meet our qualifications. But based upon this, of those 1,390, we accept roughly 680 from LEAs. So it's incredibly competitive. To give you a sense of some other changes we've made, for about a decade, we were averaging a little above 650 students coming to the Governor's School. For the last 3 years, we've made a commitment under Sneha's leadership to bringing that experience to 800 students. And over the last few years, we've averaged selecting 858 students. Now, we only serve 800, but we do inevitably have students. These are very high-achieving students, so they have options. So I would say that the students who decline their invitation to the Governor's School are making a huge mistake, but you know, that is their choice. But because of that, we do accept more than 800 by the time we're done, because we do reach out to alternates to fill those positions. We also are committed to improving racial and ethnic diversity, which has improved over this same period of time, and we're very proud of that. And we also just want to use one data point just to show you the type of students that we are getting. These are very talented and high-achieving students, and it's an incredibly competitive program. So if you look at the average weighted and unweighted GPAs of these students, you can see the level of success they bring. So we are bringing these high-achieving students together. And as one of my friends who attended Governor's School years and years ago, which despite the fact that this statement kind of diminishes most of my life's work, she said, it's nice, all the stuff you provide for the kids, but really it's just the opportunity to come together with the students from around the state and meet them and experience being with other high-achieving students from around the state. And they do grow so much from getting to know each other. But this also underlines how competitive it is to get in. We also, as I said, we have students from diverse educational backgrounds, as you can see outlined there with the numbers of students that we accepted, and these are based on this year. The students who are finding out this week and next week if they got into Governor's School, those are the numbers you're seeing. We also strive for regional representation based upon the number of applications we receive. It is based on population, and if you look at this chart, so for example, I want to point out the Northeast. For example, in the Northeast, we received 78 applications from the Northeast, which is about 4.09% of the applications we received, and we accepted or selected 33 students, which is 4.13% of the students. So while we cannot, you know, it would not be just flat across the whole state because of population, we do strive to make sure that we are representing each part of the state. And one of the ways we do that is through the Superintendent's Choice program. And with the Superintendent's Choice, each LEA can select one qualified student. They have to meet basic qualifications for the Governor's School. And once they designate them as the Superintendent's Choice, they are guaranteed a spot at the Governor's School. The idea behind this, which we've done for decades, is to get representation from all school districts so that, you know, we have someone on the campus from every corner of the state, and so that we can say we are serving the entire state, and we're very proud of that. In the nomination and selection process, over the last few years, we've done an awful lot to make it very transparent, both for families and students, through giving them more information to promote the program, but also guiding them through the process. Also with our local coordinators who, in the role I'm in now, I've come to understand that the local coordinators at the schools really are the backbone of what we do, because they are the ones who publicize the Governor's School. They're the ones who communicate questions that are coming from families and students, and we can take that feedback and provide something better for our students in the future. We're always looking to improve. And so we've tried to make this as transparent as possible, and when we get feedback of something that was a problem, we try to fix that as soon as we can. One example is our student handbook is a living document. So when we get feedback, that was sort of a result of COVID. As COVID policies were changing, et cetera, we needed to have something that was active. And so now we're able to update that as we go, notify parents if something has changed, and we can present that to them at the beginning with the understanding that if something changes, we can update and be a living document. We do continue to use the Superintendent's Choice Program to try and get that diversity. One thing I failed to mention earlier is when we don't receive a Superintendent's Choice from a school district, we are in communication with that school district to make sure they were aware of this, to see if there is someone who's interested. And while we didn't have 100% this year, we were very close. I think we only had 8 or 9 school districts that didn't send us a Superintendent's Choice this year. And when I communicated with them, there were several who were like, one in particular, the district escapes me at the moment, but said, you know, I didn't get anybody this year, but I'm already meeting with sophomores right now to tell them about the Governor's School, to let them know, to ensure that next year we have somebody coming to Governor's School, which is really important because once you get kids going, our best advocates are our alums. And so they can share that. It's great for someone like me to come and tell them Governor's School great, but I'm an old guy who works for the state. When one of their colleagues comes through and says, no, it was a great experience, here's why, that really carries weight. And that's, I do want to say, if you can watch the video and hear the testimonies of kids, it's really amazing. With all that said, we do still have areas to improve. We are always working to get better. Sneha is wonderful at encouraging us and helping us to see areas where we can improve. We celebrate successes, but then how can those even be better? So we want to improve access and opportunity. The areas that aren't sending us many students or no students, what can we do to help them? Not just call them and say, hey, why didn't you send anybody? But what can we do? Is there some tool that we could give them? Could we talk to some parents? What could we do? We also want to continue to strive to represent the state geographically and in all ways. We want students to be represented. When I attended Governor's School in 1988, there were 800 students. There's still 800 students. The state is much larger, so it's a much more competitive program. When I look over these applications, I'm fairly certain I would not get into Governor's School today, so thankfully I was born in the right time. But we want to be able to represent the state as much as we can within the parameters that we have. Now, I do want to say that earlier I said one of our best testimonies are our alums. So we're very lucky to have with us today one of our alums, Kim Jones, your Teacher of the Year, who is a Governor's School alum, who is a faculty member at Governor's School for a long time, and I had the great blessing of working with her for over a decade at the Governor's School. So she's going to tell us a little bit about her Governor's School experience.
Good morning, y'all. Thank you, Sneha and Rodney, for this opportunity. If Sneha and Rodney gave y'all facts and figures, I'm going to be honest, I'm here to give you some feelings. And she told me I had 4 minutes, so I've got 4 pages, and I've timed myself, so let's get into it. For 6 decades, the North Carolina Governor's School has been a powerhouse of intellect, a crucible of talent, and a testament to the unwavering commitment of North Carolina to the education and development of its young people. I count it as one of the great blessings of my life to have had the chance to be both a student at Governor's School East in the summer of 2000 and a faculty member for over 13 years at Governor's School West. I know without question that I would not be standing here today as North Carolina's Teacher of the Year, but for the impact and inspiration of Governor's School. It has and continues to shape how I teach and engage all my students. All of my students benefit directly from my Governor's School experience. For 60 years, Governor's School has helped to shape minds, to foster creativity, and to lay the foundation for futures filled with promise and possibility. Every day, teachers have the opportunity to equip our kids with new knowledge, and in doing so, expand their worlds and their access, empower their voices, and aid their quest for equity and justice. This truth is at the very core of the North Carolina Governor School. The students who pass through the classrooms and campuses of Governor School emerge not only academically enriched, but also equipped with the skills and mindsets to tackle the challenges of the future, and moreover, to ask the difficult but necessary whys of our time. The whys that will drive the economic, academic, technological, artistic, cultural, and social change movements of our future. Governor School makes this truth the heart of its pedagogical practice as students are led through dynamic and engaging lessons that center our students' perspectives, their voices, and their outlooks to create new and unique conjectures. From symphonies, to stay on theme, from symphonies that challenge their sonic sensibilities to text that lead their perceptions of genre and the canon to be redefined. Governor School makes the mess of learning, and at times, the essential mess of unlearning, a central practice that invigorates and taxes the minds of our students and our teachers alike. I am immensely proud of the continual and intentional strides that Governor School has made to pursue equity, inclusion, and diversity in all aspects, from staffing to leadership and outreach. I've witnessed the Governor School distinguish itself as a learning community that welcomes, embraces, elevates, and affirms the voices and perspectives of students from all backgrounds, beliefs, and perspectives. On a personal note, Governor School was one of the first academic settings in which I felt safe to bring my full self into the classroom and to know that my perspectives would be welcomed, affirmed, valued, and amplified by my teachers and my classmates. This welcoming of diverse experiences creates an environment that encourages understanding and collaboration. In a world that is becoming increasingly interconnected, the ability to navigate diverse landscapes and to work effectively with people from different walks of life is an invaluable skill. The Governor School prepares its students not just for college, but for a global society that demands cultural intelligence and competence, as well as adaptability, empathy, collaboration, critical thinking, a learner's mindset, cultural intelligence, and personal responsibilities. Skills which, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, everybody at our table should be well familiar with. Knowledge for knowledge's sake is never the goal. As gifted minds, Governor School students are also charged to use those gifts to make their worlds and their futures and the futures of others better, more equitable, and more just. They are supported at every turn by committed, expert faculty who truly believe they can. And every summer, Governor School students do just that. They lean into challenging curriculums and tough questions, and they prove year after year that they are not content with the status quo. They are the architects of change, they are the inquisitors of challenging norms, and they are the visionaries shaping the future of our state and our nation. The North Carolina Governor School is more than just an educational institution. It is a prominence for the leaders, teachers, thinkers, and innovators of tomorrow. I'm beyond thankful for the continued role it has played in my life since that transformative summer 24 years ago. It has been and continues to be a beacon of inspiration, a catalyst for growth, and a testament to the limitless potential that resides within the young minds of North Carolina. I am beyond proud to be part of its legacy within these first 60 years, and I am excited to witness the glory and the impact of its next 60. Thank y'all for this opportunity to share.
And now Dr. Michael Elder, our chairperson of the Board of Governors.
So thank you all for the time to share. I can attest that I wrote this before you said it. Portrait of a Graduate was the first thing on the top of my list. And so we're all called to action, right? Like, so those of us in districts, we don't always get to stand here and say, but, we try to follow direction as much as possible. And so whenever I thought about this today, and I thought, well, what would be the message from the board of directors for the governor's school? It's, this is one of those pieces, right? This is the shining light. It's the city on a hill, right? And we don't cover those things up. We don't hide them. We celebrate them. And so we thank you all, because without policies, without procedures, without an Office of Advanced Learning that says, we need to pay attention to this, these are things that can easily be swept away because you all are in charge of thousands and thousands of things. And so we thank you for trusting staff, for trusting districts to do the right thing for kids. And in doing the right thing for kids, we know we're always tweaking how we do things. So today, I feel like if there was a teacher poet laureate, we just got to hear from her, right? Like, I don't get to have those kind of words. I get to have the policy and procedures, and I'm so thankful for you and your message, and just want to sit in that for a second. But you have in front of you for more or less a first read today, the policies and procedures as they've been redrafted by the board and from the Office of Advanced Learning and Gifted Ed. And so within that, it was a lot of just cleaning up, clarifying, making processes as transparent as we can, and making sure that regardless of who's in what seat, that there are pieces and parts that follow all of us, right? So you see in there, you've got the overview of the program, you've got all those pieces. One piece that I did want to bring out is who are the members of the Board of Governor or Board of Directors for the Governor's School. And one of the things we realized was, we had some language in there about teacher, and we thought, well, from those of us in the districts, we said a lot of times that person who knows the process the most intimately is actually the school counselor. They're very often the person who is taking our word from the district and saying, go find these kids, right? Go look. They will come to you. They know the kids that may or may not be the natural governor's school applicant, but who might need it the most. And so you'll see that we've added in there, we've changed the language from teacher to a high school personnel, which we think will allow us that flexibility to choose the best person, to steal a Jim Collins, right? The right people in the right seats on the bus, right? And then also, we have this huge part of Governor's School that is the arts. And we didn't really have somebody who sat on the board of directors who represented the arts. And so you'll see that in there too. There's lots of other words in the policy. I know we all just love reading policy on the weekends. It's just, one of the things we get to do. So this I do bring to you from the full Board of Governors, from the Board of Directors, for your consideration. Was certainly glad to take any questions and to look at that. But I do get to play a little bit in the kid realm. So if we can move forward to the second part of this, I won't read these quotes to you. I know you have access to them, but I want to bring to you just a couple key details or a couple key points, and then just two stories that came to mind on my I-40 drive on the way here today. So when you look at some of the things that our kids tell us, it's about meeting kids who are like them. They say that first, but the longer you talk to them, the more you find out it's really about meeting kids who are not like them. And kids who may not be from rural Onslow County, or they may not be from urban Wake County, or they may not be from, fill in the blank, right? We've all come from various places, and we've all been enriched by meeting different people. And so one of the big pieces, I think, is that our kids get to meet other high-achieving, motivated, driven kids who may not think like they do, right? But they learn to think critically and to be able to disagree without being disagreeable. It's all those things we try to teach and we try to model for our kids because that's what we're called to do. So we see all those pieces. We also see them talk about research. And one of the things that I think our district is really trying to get back to is getting kids involved in research. Like, find something you're interested in learning about and find out what have other people said about it. And actually read those things and then write about those things. And so when they come together, they get to do that naturally, without a grade, without somebody telling them they have to. And as has been said before, this is really learning for learning's sake, right? This is what we all want to do. It's why we choose the books that we want to read on the weekend, right? Because we just want to learn, or we want to experience. It's the places we go to eat and the people we go to talk to. So 2 stories that came to mind as Sneha and I were talking and on the way here. One was a parent story, and this happens every single year, and there's no hyperbole in this. Every single year we have a meet and greet event where we bring last year's Governor's School kids in, and we have food, and we bring the upcoming kids together so they can really talk about how many snacks do I need to take, how much money do I need to take, all those things that kids are going to be worried about, right? And then we bring the parents together because we are all parents and we all worry too, even though we try to pretend like we don't. And so we bring them all together, and every year we say to the parents, this is going to be transformative for your kids. They're going to come back different. Please don't blame us. They're just going to be different when they come back. You're going to love it, and you're going to mourn the loss of your young child because they are going to come back borderline adulting on you. And so I was actually working the concession stand with one of these parents the other night at a high school soccer game, and she was just reliving that moment for her son with me. And she said, you know, you said that to me. And I thought, there goes the schools again, telling us how everything's going to be better. And you know what? You were right. And I owe you an apology. Because they are. They're just come back different. They appreciate their senior year differently. They appreciate life differently. And then one student story, or just a student anecdote. A student that we've worked with who came very high achieving, super driven in middle school, came in 6th grade and said, I want to do all these things. And so we've been following that student and working with him throughout. And everybody around this table has had one of these kids that just touches you differently, right? You want to spend time with them, right? Because maybe they're a better version of me, like a better version of myself. And so this student had a chance last summer to go to one of our Ivy League schools in the Northeast and experience all that. And he came to me after that and he said, this was amazing, but you've always talked about Governor's School, and should I still apply to that? And I said, I won't use his name, but I said, you know, you've got to do what you want to do. Please don't do things because of the adults, right? We're going to give you opportunities. And so yesterday when we got, or the day earlier, we got the acceptance letters, and of course, selfishly, I'm looking through the list. I thought, wow, he's got a decision to make now. Because he has some other opportunities. But I really think this is one you're not going to get anywhere else. So thank you for making this possible. And again, without policies and procedures, things go away when people go away. And so thank you for codifying these things and for supporting them financially and for showing up at these places. So thank you again from the Board of Directors, and I'll turn it back over to Sam.
Thank you so much, Michael. I do hope you can watch that video when you get a chance, just to hear we can say it, because it is truly, it's inspiring. It's inspiring, and that's truly what I can say. We do hope this summer, because COVID's is now kind of integrated into the world a little bit better. We hope all of you can visit, and we will plan those days. We have our 2 sites. But just to let you know, we do have a vision for the future, because we do these things for these 800 students, but we have another 100,000 high schoolers, right, who are seniors. How are we going to start reaching them more? And that's what we've been really thinking about. One thing is that we're going to be partnering with VPS to offer one of the philosophy courses online, and so to really kind of spread the good that we know and good pedagogy, right? How do we share that? The other thing is we do want to continue to secure funding for better for our host campuses and personnel pay, which has been stagnant for a little bit, and hopefully expand the capacity, because we are still at 800, which is the same that we were 40 years ago. And a lot more people, so it is you know, we want to spread the wealth as much as possible. We hope to add computer science and technology. That was in our ask at the long session, because we do have 10 areas, 5 in core academics, 5 in the arts, and we're hoping one day we can add computer science and technology that will also help continue to bring more diversity to the great campuses, and continue just working to better serve our state and promote excellence across our state throughout, from Murphy to Manio. That's our goal. So thank you for this time. I hope it was a great way to end your 2 days here. Before, of course, there's still some stuff we have to do, but thank you. Questions?
Are there any questions for any of our presenters? Vice Chair Duncan?
My recollection is back in the early 2000s, Governor's School was 6 weeks, not 4 weeks. Am I right about that?
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming the reason for the reduction is financially related, that is the available resources.
Yeah, so when Governor's School came over to me, had gone down to approximately 5 weeks with a vacation. So it was like 5 instructional weeks. And to be able to increase the number of students, which we wanted to make a priority, we did move it to 4 weeks. I will say that some districts were, including Michael, were actually in favor of that. Because one of the comments we had started to get was there's so many other opportunities and the summers have become shorter. But yes, the primary reason was financial, but I do think that has helped to get more applications considering summers have gotten shorter and students have so many other opportunities.
Last question, follow-up. How much a week would it cost if you lengthened the program? So, for example, if you went from 4 weeks to 5 weeks, what is the cost of that?
I have that in my file. I don't have that right now, sir, but I can get it to you. It costs approximately $1,500 a student across for the 4-week session. And then we do get the tuition dollars, and then we do get money from the state General Assembly, from the state legislator. But I will get you those numbers, Mr. Duncan.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. That was a great ending to our meeting, and that concludes this Student Learning and Achievement Committee work for today.
Thank you, Ms. Kamnitz. SLA is bringing us 1 through 4 and 6. Before we leave the Governor's School, it was founded in 1963 by our 65th governor, Terry Sanford, who was known for being incredibly visionary, positive, and to quote his biography, unbridled ambition. We're the recipients of that type of, beneficiaries of that type of leadership today. In 1988, our population was 6.5 million. Today it's 10.8 million. That would imply, using that standard, that the number of students in Governor's School should not be 800, but at least 1,400. And what that means is for every Kim Jones, there's 2 more out there that we're not giving the opportunity for. By another standard, in 1988, our state's GDP was $124 billion. Last year, it was $565 billion. We're a much larger state with not only much greater needs, but many more talented students that we need to have the benefit of this experience for our future. I don't know why we choose to limit our state's capacity to tap into that talent. We're choosing, by limiting the size of Governor's School, to not take advantage of the opportunity our state has. This is just one more example of a really good thing that's happening in North Carolina that needs to be expanded rapidly and expanded thoroughly. So appreciate the good work at the Governor's School. We need it, more of it now than ever. So thank you. That concludes our committee reports for the day. I do have one update from our closed session discussion this evening. The materials were presented to you at your seat, that the staff is now bringing to us a recommendation of 68 limited licenses and 11 initial professional licenses for our consideration today. 2 of those recommendations are going through further review and study and will come before us if appropriate. So that'll be a change to our action agenda. We'll now vote on any item requiring action from your committee reports. A thorough discussion and report was provided on each item, including any respective consent items. The consent agenda is primarily not complex and may have come to each of us for discussion the prior month. Note also that board members have seen the consent agenda for this meeting the past week. At this time, I ask if there's a request to remove any item from the consent action or action on first reading agenda. Hearing none, I request a motion to approve the following: the January 31st and February 1st, 2024 meeting minutes, and the following items: Biz Op 1 through 9 and 11 through 15, HRS 1 and 2, ESNP 1 and 3, EICS 1 and 2, SLA 1 through 4 and 6. The 68 limited license and 11 initial professional license recommendations presented by staff in closed session, and the 2 extenuating circumstances committee recommendations also presented in closed session. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion by Lieutenant Governor and second by the Treasurer. Is there any discussion on that motion? Mr. Perforia, will you call the roll to capture the vote?
Dr. Oxendine,
Yes.
Ms. Kamnitz,
Yes.
Mr. Keenan,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Dr. Tipton Rogers, Mr. Blackburn,
Yes.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Treasurer Falwell,
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Robinson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan,
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes. That motion passes. That concludes our work for this month. I want to
Hey,
thank
Gene.
members of our staff and all those who participated in this meeting, particularly my colleagues on the board and our advisors. As a reminder, we will meet next month here, April 3rd and 4th, and then in 2 months, we'll be meeting on the campus of Appalachian State University for our biannual planning and work session, April 30th through May 2nd. I now call on a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Keenan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hall. Mr. Foforia.
Dr. Oxendine,
Yes.
Ms. Kamnitz,
Yes.
Mr. Keenan,
Yes.
Mr. Hall, Dr. Tipton Rogers, Mr. Blackburn,
Yes.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Treasurer Falwell,
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Robinson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan,
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes, motion carries. We're adjourned. Have a good day.